In this episode, we're home once again in Youngstown, New York, and we head over to Old Fort Niagara Cemetery to honor our fallen veterans on this Memorial Day weekend.
So thankful for so many men willing to stand up and serve their country, and for all the families who serve with them, both in war and in peace. Thank you for listening.
The following are members of Lake Ontario Post 313 who passed recently. Lee Toby Keir, Kenneth Whelan, Ralph N. Morelli, and Eleanor Bain.
Today was the Memorial Day ceremony. Every year we've attended this, and this is Bob Emerson. He's involved with the Old Fort Niagara. Can you tell me a little bit about the cemetery here and its history?
Well, the Post Cemetery probably goes back to about 1755.
Okay.
The French were the first Europeans to explore this area, and they had a cemetery inside what's now the Old Fort. But when they expanded the fort during the French and Indian War, they moved the cemetery outside, started this particular cemetery. So there are French soldiers buried in here. There are British soldiers buried in here from the period of the American Revolution. And then, of course, there's American soldiers buried in here from 1796 forward. The U.S. occupied the fort in 1796. There are unknown soldiers from the War of 1812 buried here, Civil War soldiers. There's a grave for several soldiers who were drowned in the lake in the 1870s. And then there are even some from the 20th century here as well. But the cemetery got full. There were actually 3 cemeteries here at Fort Niagara.
Really?
The biggest one was moved in the mid-20th century to Bath, New York.
Okay.
But this one remains, and it's it's completely packed. Most of the graves aren't even marked, but the more recent ones, the U.S. graves are.
Okay.
Many of them are. Interestingly enough, one of the most interesting burials here is Sergeant Louis Leffman,
Yeah.
who has the distinction of the longest serving enlisted man in the U.S. Army's history. He was born in 1798, and he served in the Hanoverian Army in the Napoleonic Wars.
Wow.
He came over to Canada, served Canada, and then moved to the United States, joined the U.S. Army. He was a caretaker here, a lone caretaker here at the fort in the 19th century, and he soldiered on into his 70s or 80s. So he was quite advanced in years when he got out of the Army.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So, and his grave's in here.
Oh, okay.
As well. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for talking to us.
Oh, my pleasure.
I'm gonna probably in the near future try to hit the fort here. Love to talk to you again about stuff in there.
Sure. Give me a call.
Okay.
Glad to do it.
Thanks. So we're at Lake Ontario, Post 313 in Youngstown, New York. I'm talking with, what's your name?
Gary Zanardi.
Gary Zanardi.
I'm the former post commander.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the VFW and what it's about.
Veterans of Foreign Wars was started in 1899 by Spanish-American War veterans, and back in that day, the only real veterans organization was the GAR, which was the old Civil War veterans. So they wanted to start a veterans organization that was for basically the new crop of veterans back in that day. And since then, membership in the VFW is for veterans who have served in combat zones overseas. Okay. That's where we're a little different from the American Legion, which was started in 1919 from World War I veterans. And the only thing different about the Legion is that their view was that if you served during time of war, whether it was overseas or stateside, you're eligible for membership in the Legion.
Okay.
So it's kind of like anybody in the VFW can get into the Legion, but not necessarily everyone in the Legion can get into the VFW.
So what are the activities that the VFW participates in today?
Well, basically, which I'm kind of proud to say, is that the VFW organization as a whole is kind of catching up to where we are now, where we've been in the last few years, especially with trying to attract, because to keep the doors open, you gotta bring in the new crop of veterans.
Membership.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've tried to emphasize is that our VFW post is not a watering hole for veterans to drown their sorrows. I mean, we got beer in the refrigerator, but that's really not what we're about.
Right.
We're here to support the local veterans, to do outreach with the community. And the younger veterans really aren't interested in that old kind of hanging out at the VFW post and,
swapping war stories.
Yeah, swapping war stories and chugging beers and such. It's not what they're interested in.
Right.
And I kind of looked at it like I always felt that that's really what we were supposed to be doing all along. It's kind of like the kid that comes home with the good report card. Well, okay. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come home with a good report card. So I kind of feel like we're coming home with a good report card. We're not just not sitting around, guzzling and, like you say, throwing war stories back and forth. We participate in the various community events.
Well, I know myself personally. I've been, it's been a tradition in my family to participate in the events of today with the Memorial Day ceremony. Back when I was a Boy Scout, it was every year our whole troop would come and participate. I remember us starting out right here and marching all the way down to Main Street and marching all the way to the cemetery.
That must have been moons ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. See, I joined in 2003, and we weren't marching on Memorial Day. We became marching in the Labor Day parade a few years after I joined, but that must be going way back.
Yeah.
90s maybe? 80s?
It was a late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
I definitely know the VFW has been good to the people in the community. I mean, my grandfather passed away a number of years ago, and he was mentioned. And I'll probably with this episode, maybe I might extend this. I actually have a video that he did with the Veterans Project way back when Adelphia Cable was around, where they actually did an interview with him. And it's about a 30-minute long interview, and he talks about his time in World War II. And
well, that's good. Yeah. Piece it together. All right, Chief.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
Yes.
This time we're going to have a ceremony to dispose of some flags that have been dropped off at the post here. So if you'll please bear with me, and then at the end, if anybody would like to take one of the flags and take it out back, you're more than welcome to join us. When the flag of our country has become worn or damaged, the proper way to dispose of it is through burning. Today we are here to pay our last respects to these flags with love and reverence. Each stripe stands for one of the original 13 colonies, and each state is represented by a star on a field of blue. We have presented here these flags of our country which have been inspected and judged as unserviceable. They have reached their present state in a proper service of tribute, memory, and love. A flag may be a flimsy bit of printed gauze or a beautiful banner of finest silk. Its intrinsic value may be trifling or great, but its real value is beyond price, for it is a precious symbol of all that we and our comrades have worked for and lived for and died for, a free nation of free men, true to the faith of the past, devoted to the ideals and practice of justice, freedom, and democracy. Let these faded flags of our country be retired and destroyed with respectful and honorable rites, and their places be taken by bright new flags of the same size and kind, and let no grave of our soldier or sailor be unhonored or unmarked. At this time, the chaplain will now offer a prayer.
Almighty God, Captain of all hosts and Commander over all, bless and consecrate this present hour. We thank Thee for our country and its flag, and for the liberty for which it stands. To clean and purging flame we commit these flags, worn out in worthy service. As they yield their substance to the fire, may Thy holy light spread over us and bring to our hearts renewed devotion to God and country.